Just quick introduction. So I run client services for a B2B demand gen agency. I've been agency side for about 8 years, and I've been on the B2B tech side for majority of my career. I work for an agency called Unreal Digital Group, and we are a full service demand gen agency that offers everything from creative services and content to strategy and execution, and a lot of marketing operations support. A little bit about me: I live in Bend, Oregon. I'm a Bay Area expat. I grew up in Santa Cruz. I love the reason why I'm here is because I love to be outside and being on my bike or out on the trails. As you can see by my costume choice today, I'm a big Ted Lasso fan, so did my best to impersonate Keely Jones. I'm a dog mom. I have 3 doodles, and I love a good Mai Tai in Maui. Can't beat that. Starting off with some questions about ABM. So the funny thing when I was putting these down is I did an ABM presentation in 2016. These are still the same questions. Nothing has changed from the last 5 years in terms of what you need to have a successful ABM program. Do you have that executive support? Do you have, and I hate to use the cliche, sales and marketing alignment because it's said so flip, but you truly have to be in lockstep with sales to understand that for ABM to be a success. Your ICP, what have you done to develop it? Is it a true ICP where you've actually done the research, or did you just say these are the type of accounts that we want to attract and get logos on our website? And ABM is not a one-person job; it's a team job. So what are those teams, and more importantly, what are those roles, and how are you going to define those? And I like to talk about that in terms of a RACI chart, because it's really a nice way to make sure that you're identifying all the different areas of ABM that need to happen, and knowing there can only be one person responsible. The rule of RACI: only one person responsible. There's the accountability. You need to have that collaboration, right? So making sure that you've really identified that team and what everybody's role is. And do you have good buyer and account insights? And that goes lockstep with good data, which is something that we have to always sort of unwind when people want to talk about ABM, because you really need to look at your database and make sure that you're ready to launch an ABM program. And what does your content look like? Content is critical for an ABM program. Regardless if it's a one-to-one, a one-to-few, or a one-to-many program, you need to make sure that you've done at a minimum, a gap analysis on your content and identify where you need to fill in content. So when we look at ABM, it's really important to look at it not just in the context of account-based marketing or traditional demand generation. Most companies are not going to throw out their traditional demand generation lead-based programs in favor of ABM. And so the idea is, how do you make those coexist using all your systems and processes? I'm a big fan of SiriusDecisions / Forrester. And one of the things that they changed a few years ago was developing the demand unit waterfall, right? So because they realized that their old way of looking at it with the reverse waterfall had some flaws. And the way that B2B buying cycles work is it's a large group purchase, especially as you swim upstream with larger average sales cycles, the number of people in a buying center get bigger, and you need to be able to engage multiple people. But if you're keeping your lead-based programs, how do you have those coexist in all your systems? So making sure that you have a way to say, here's kind of how we're going to set up our stages, and we're going to be able to make that work for both an account-based program as well as our lead-based program. So the pain points and challenges, again, these are things that we heard in 2016, and I literally heard them on a kickoff call this week. So you really have to bridge the gap between, what's happening with your all the different components in your operational components, your MarTech, how does your sales work, all of those pieces, your budgets. and really have to look at it and make sure that you're looking at this from multiple different perspectives before you decide to bite off an account-based marketing program. We see a lot of times a demand gen executive or even a CMO will come to us and say, our CEO wants to do ABM. And we ask these are the questions that they have. These are the challenges that they have. Budget usually is something, if they're coming to us, they've already somewhat identified. Sometimes they're surprised on what they need in order to actually have a successful ABM program. But then they'll say things like, well, my CEO wants an ABM program, and he really wants to see us increase our MQLs. Those are very different things. If you're talking about an account-based program, it's very different from a marketing qualified lead, which is an individual lead-based program. So having to get that alignment early on with your ABM, with your ABM program is critical, and make sure that you're able to, if you have that, again, going back to the tried and true questions, who's the person that's going to be able to push back and drive that that conversation internally to make sure that everybody knows what it's going to take to have an ABM. We've also seen the case where people have a very robust tech stack because they think that the way to implement an ABM program is to buy a bunch of technology. Well, that's great, and we love that. We love when we have access to a really robust tech stack. But if you don't know how to use it, you don't have the resources inside to use it, it's almost better to launch an ABM program with a core set of tools of a CRM and a marketing automation platform and build as you develop your program, rather than have this giant, robust, tech stack that you have to figure out where everything fits. And again, a lot of the questions is like, I don't know where to start. And one of the things that we always talk about with ABM when we're having these conversations with clients is start with a pilot. Really identify a target group of accounts and come up with a strategy, and that's something that can scale and you can bring either into other tiers. So if you want to start with your white glove, top 10 accounts, top 50 accounts, whatever it looks like, great. And then figure out how to scale that out to your one to few and your one to minis. We always hear as well that our sales cycle is unique. Sales cycles are different amongst every single company that we work with as a client. And I will tell you that what I've recently noticed is people coming, B2B typically has a longer sales cycle, anywhere from 3 months to a year. We've had some clients come to us that have very short sales cycles, under 60 days, and want to do account-based marketing. Well, my question to them is, do you really want to do account-based marketing for that short of a sales cycle? Is it ABM or is it targeted demand generation? Because those are kind of two sides of the same coin. Targeted demand gen is lead-based, but you can have an account, a targeted account list, but still be looking at it from your traditional, funnel metrics model. So, in all of this here, these are challenges that one of the biggest things that we see outside of this is about personalization, because when you look at account-based marketing programs, and especially when you're looking at those one-to-one programs, you need to make sure that you have the resources, the budget, the time to really create the content that is going to reach your personas. And I always say with ABM, sure, it's account-based marketing, but you're still marketing to people, right? It's an account. You're not marketing to an account, you're marketing at people within that account. And those people are your personas. So identifying that buying center and making sure you have the right content to be able to personalize and reach them is really critical. So just to kind of go through a little bit about, the tech stack, I mentioned before that sometimes it's better to start with a very small tech stack and add your tools in as you grow your program. But we've put together some checklists about what do you need and where do you need it. And, if you are looking at scaling your program, doing that, gap analysis, it's to understand what do you have and what do you think you're going to need and what are you going to need it for. So, I'm sure everybody on this call has a marketing automation platform and a CRM. I'd be surprised if you didn't. But looking at other core tools like data append or enrichment tools, To me, that's something that is really critical to an account-based marketing program, and really to any sort of targeted demand gen program, to be able to get that core information about your people that are converting on your website or your landing pages. Do you have a sales engagement tool? We work a lot with the outreaches and the sales lofts, and even some of the embedded HubSpot type products, and we put together some pretty sophisticated strategies, because it's almost a flip from a traditional marketing program, where especially when you're looking at that one-to-one type program, where you're starting with a conversion, but you have a strategy around a nurture program in your sales engagement tool. And that's how you're driving those particular contacts through the funnel to become a marketing qualified account. Things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or a conversational marketing tool like Adrift. These are things that I think are really critical to ABM, and being able to identify people on your website and give them that concierge white glove service when they reach their website, know what those playbooks look like and how to drive them through to where you want them to go. And account scoring, while account scoring is not a tool per se, it's a critical part of account-based marketing. And in order to have account-based scoring, lead scoring is really important, because again, we're marketing to people, not accounts. So how are we going to bubble up that criteria from your target accounts to know that your target account now is a marketing qualified account? So just a couple of takeaways here. ABM is not a one size fits all program. I truly believe that when clients come to us for ABM, a good chunk of the time, the appetite for what it takes to implement ABM it takes too long. It takes too long to be able to get to those all those process changes. So a targeted demand gen is a great way to even start as ABM light, I would call it. And be realistic, really looking at those key things. How is your sales cycle long and complex, or is it a really short sales cycle? ABM is much more successful with larger average sales prices, average contract values, and longer sales cycles. And again, what I just said a couple minutes ago, having a pilot program and looking at it through the lens of will this scale? And doing that expectation setting with key stakeholders, and outlining what the KPIs are of your program. I have a slide in my appendix here about some suggested KPIs for ABM, but it's really important that you are clear what you're measuring, and then looking at your tech stack to make sure that you can get to that data, because that's what's going to prove whether or not your program is successful or not. And also making sure that the classic demand gen, your lead-based generation programs, are still supported. One of the things that we always talk about with clients is ABM is going to slow your funnel, right? If you are truly trying to qualify an account and you need multiple stakeholders within that account to become qualified, we all know it's not a linear funnel. People are not going to go through and become a lead and become an MQL and become an SAL and become an SQL. That's not how people, look for products to buy. So you have to know that you're going to have your buying center, and you might have somebody in your buying center that has become an MQL and somebody that's still at the top of your funnel. So you need to have those tactics and understand what it's going to take to get the core of your buying center into the same place and qualified as an account, so you can change your tactics, get them over to sales, to start working them as an opportunity, together. And so that takes longer than just a single lead, working its way through the funnel. So having those programs, if you are going to do true ABM, making sure that you are running both classic or traditional demand generation with your account-based marketing programs. And I think that is it. And welcome and looking forward to discussion.